we keep learning many new things about Trump's last days in office, what the insurrection brought, and just what was the thinking inside the White House. The danger here is what will happen in the next set of elections, especially if we've been covering, there are different people in charge. We think, one of the best guests you could get anywhere in the country for this right now. The iconic journalist Bob Woodward. His reporting, of course, exposed the Watergate scandal and has deepened public understanding of many historic developments in many presidencies. The latest book by Mr. Woodward, Peril, that he co-authored, produces many revelations with Robert Costa, ranging from Trump's tenure to his last days in office to just how we got to an insurrection in America. Good to see you again, sir. Thanks for coming back on The Beat.
Thank you.
Part of what Congress is doing is trying to use the power of law and subpoena to get interviews that you somehow often get without that great power, sir. And that's what journalists do. They are trying to get some Trump officials to talk to them that, according to the book, you've already spoken with. And so what did you learn? What should we understand about the facts leading up to January 6th and the mentality inside that White House?
Well, the overall mentality here is Trump's claim that the election was stolen. One of the things Bob Costa and I found, there were memos, and as you know, is a legal matter when you have documentation of memos Rudy Giuliani sent to Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, and a memo that White House lawyer John Eastman sent to Senator Mike Lee of Utah, two of the most conservative, pro-Trump Republicans in the Senate and perhaps in the country. And so they looked at the allegations of stolen election, and they concluded across the board there was zero evidence to support this. So if you look at it, if you had a presentation to a jury of 12 Americans, they would look at this and they might have political feelings pro-Trump or anti-Trump, but the documentation is so solid in the investigations and the conclusions of Trump's friends. Just this week, then Trump denounced Senators Graham and Senators Lee, saying that they gave up and that they should be embarrassed for abandoning his stolen election claim. But if you look at it through a neutral lens, schism in this country, it's hard, but that's what Costa and I were able to do. And it's clear there is no evidence of the stolen election. What Trump has done since he left office, he's almost basing his rationale for a candidacy in 2024 is, well, they stole it from me in 2020, so maybe as a consolation prize or his view of justice, they should give it to him in 2024. But that's not what the presidency is about.
Yeah, you got that right. You mentioned the lawyers, Bob. You have this scene that you detail, and it seems like quite intrepid, interesting reporting, where it's after Trump has lost, it's after the appeals have gone nowhere, and you write that then Attorney General Barr told him, look, you could have gotten a great team of crackerjack lawyers, but instead you have a clown car of people like Giuliani. Now, first of all, I find that interesting because Barr shouldn't even really be giving much of that kind of advice. It's verging on improper for the Attorney General because he's not, of course, the lawyer to the president. But second, you seem to capture a type of candor behind the scenes that was surely different from the way Mr. Barr conducted himself, at least publicly, as a very, very supportive Attorney General, backing up almost anything Donald Trump said. I know you just report what you found, but can you enlighten us any more about why you included that in the book? What does it tell us? Do you believe that that was Mr. Barr trying to look good now, or what was that about?
No, I think it's true. Look, Barr, a supporter of Trump, somebody who wanted him to be reelected, went in private to President Trump last year during the campaign and said, look, I travel the country as much as any of your cabinet officers. I see your supporters. You have them. But, Mr. President, they basically think you are an effing a-hole. And you have to notch it down. When Trump said, well, why don't you look at these stolen election claims, what was very important, Barr said, in the Justice Department, they said we shouldn't do this. I took it, this is Barr talking, an extra important step and had 5 U.S. attorneys in the states that were allegedly contested look at this. And Barr said to Trump, Mr. President, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing here. We looked at it. So you've got all of these people who are supporters of Trump, want him reelected, saying you are basing this premise of the stolen election on nothing. Like as we saw in Arizona, they spent a long time and lots of money counting the votes again, and Biden actually got more votes. Costa and I spent time emptying the pockets and minds of people involved in this because, maybe there is something. Maybe there was some sort of fraud. We found absolutely zero.
Does your reporting leave you with the impression that Trump is likely to run again or not?
Yes. We think there's abundant evidence that he's going to run again. And the polling, he has a lock in the Republican Party, at least for the moment. Look, you and I know each other well enough. I'm not a partisan in this. If we found something that supported Trump, we would put it in the book. In the book, we give Trump credit for pushing on the vaccine. It's something that Joe Biden won't do, really. Trump did push on the vaccine. It was successful. Again, you have to look at what the facts are. But we, as you so well know, live in this toxic environment of the schism. You're either for Trump or you're against Trump. And I think it's important. Look, you understand law and facts actually in a courtroom, and our political system is not a courtroom, but it should approximate it. And I would argue if you look at this is something that's got to be alarming to a Trump supporter. Wait a minute, who's got evidence? Former Attorney General Barr, 0. Lindsey Graham, 0. Mike Lee, senator from Utah, very conservative, somebody who talked to Trump about this. And again, another 0 evidence.